All right, welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we're skipping the dry textbook theory and literally building an industrial resistance thermometer from the atoms up. Look, if you're studying process control or instrumentation, you probably know that getting an accurate temperature reading sounds super simple in a classroom. But honestly, it's a whole different beast out on a harsh, vibrating, intensely hot plant floor. So we're going to break down exactly how engineers actually solve this in the real world.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Temperature coefficient. 2. Thermometer elements. 3. Industrial bulbs. 4. Thermowells. 5. The Wheatstone bridge. And finally, 6. The Callender Griffith circuit.
So, we're kicking things off with a massive engineering challenge. I want you to picture a roaring industrial furnace, or maybe a high-pressure chemical vat. How do you pull incredibly precise data out of environments that are literally hot enough to melt standard glass and warp basic metals? You absolutely need something that is tough as nails, but still perfectly precise. And hey, this isn't just some modern theory we're talking about. This is a serious legacy of high-stakes problem solving. This actually goes all the way back to 1886. That's when a guy named H.L. Callender basically rescued this entire method of temperature measurement. Early engineers already knew that resistance changed with heat, right? But sensor contamination kept totally ruining their data. Callender finally cracked the code on protecting the resistance element, and he set the gold standard for the precise industrial resistance thermometers we literally still use today.
Okay, section 1, temperature coefficient, the invisible physics.
So everything relies on this one fundamental concept, the thermal coefficient of resistance. Basically, at the atomic level, as the temperature of certain metals changes, their electrical resistance predictably changes too. It's pretty straightforward. As temperature goes up, conductivity goes down, and resistance increases. But here's the catch. For industrial use, we can't just have a metal that reacts to heat. We need one that reacts with absolute mathematical predictability. We need that continuous, stable, and linear change. That is our fundamental measuring tool. Looking at our top 3 contenders for this job, we've got platinum, copper, and nickel. Now, copper has a highly linear relationship, which is great, but it's strictly for lower ambient temps. It maxes out around 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Nickel, while it's cheap and has high resistivity, good up to about 600 degrees, but its relationship is noticeably nonlinear. And then there's platinum. Platinum is absolutely the undisputed gold standard here. It can handle continuous industrial operations up to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. That is literally hot enough to melt aluminum. And it still maintains incredible stability and accuracy.
Moving right along to section 2, thermometer elements, the core wire.
Now, you can't just leave that fine platinum wire dangling around. It's super carefully wound and clamped between 2 mica plates. This specific metal spring frame configuration is brilliant because it serves a dual purpose. First, it keeps the thermometer bulb highly compact. And second, it drastically improves the heat transfer characteristics. It guarantees physical contact between all parts of the bulb, so the platinum wire instantly feels the heat of its surroundings.
Section 3, industrial bulbs, armor for the element.
When you compare that naked internal winding to the heavy-duty industrial bulbs required on a plant floor, the difference is huge. To stop oxidation and contamination from, say, harsh industrial gases or liquids, that fragile mica-clamped platinum element gets totally sealed inside a well-made of porcelain, brass, or even stainless steel. The end of this protective tube might even be flattened out, and that's just to provide even better heat conduction to the super-sensitive element hiding inside.
Section 4, Thermowells, surviving the process.
All right, let's think about the physics of what we've just built. Every single time the temperature of the process changes, that heat actually has to fight its way through multiple physical barriers. First, it travels through the process fluid. Then it conducts through the thick thermowell wall, crosses the internal airspace, which, by the way, is a terrible conductor, and then finally reaches the platinum element. It's honestly a lot like lag in a video game. The event happened, but your screen is delayed because the signal is fighting through an obstacle course. To combat this lag, engineers will sometimes fill that internal clearance space with metal powder, oil, or mercury just to speed up the heat transfer. And the environment makes a huge difference in those response times. If the sensor is in dead air, you get a massive lag. But if you place that exact same protected sensor in fast-flowing, agitated water, the response time totally plummets. The thermal resistance of the process fluid itself plays an absolutely huge role in exactly how fast your control room actually gets the data. Okay, Section 5, Wheatstone Bridge, translating the signal. So this is where the electrical engineering really takes over. Measuring temperature with a resistance thermometer entirely boils down to measuring electrical resistance. Now sure, a simple circuit might be totally fine in a perfectly temperature-controlled lab, but out on a factory floor, you've got these long copper lead wires running all the way from your sensor to your instrument, and they are fully exposed to fluctuating ambient heat. That ambient heat actually changes the resistance of the lead wires themselves, which, as you can guess, completely ruins your precise data. We desperately need a way to separate the wire's resistance from the sensor's resistance. To really understand the solution, let's first break down the simple Wheatstone bridge. You can think of this basically as a highly sensitive scale balancing electrical weights. You have a battery applying a potential and a galvanometer watching the balance. Then you have fixed resistors and B and an adjustable slide wire S. Now, crucially, all these internal resistors and slide wires are made of a special material called manganese. Why manganese? Well, because its resistance is practically immune to ambient temperature changes. But here's the kicker. This basic setup still doesn't fix our external lead wire problem.
Which brings us to Section 6, Callender Griffith Circuit, the ultimate solution.
The Callender Griffith circuit is an absolute masterpiece of circuit design. It uses something called Siemens three-wire compensation. By running 3 wires to the bulb instead of just 2, and cleverly arranging them on opposite arms of the electrical bridge, it acts kind of like noise-canceling headphones for heat. It's genius. The ambient temperature changes in the lead wires mathematically cancel each other out perfectly, so the bridge only falls out of balance when the temperature at the actual platinum bulb changes. And of course, modern industrial systems aren't relying on humans to sit there and balance the scale. They use a null bridge method. Essentially, an automated galvanometer detects the unbalance. It instantly converts that unbalance into a signal, amplifies it, and uses it to drive a reversible motor. That motor physically moves the slide wire contactor along the scale until the whole bridge is perfectly balanced again. And the exact position of that motor, that gives you your highly calibrated temperature reading. So from the atomic behavior of platinum all the way to the mechanical balancing of the Callender Griffith circuit, you now know exactly how to build and implement an industrial resistance thermometer from the ground up. You know how Thermowells create lag and how 3-wire circuits cancel out the noise. So I'll leave you with this thought for your studies. When you're out there in the field with thousands of dollars of process fluid on the line, how are you going to engineer the perfect measurement system for your next massive project? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.